It's Friday on Daily Delivery. I am Michael Rand. Glad to be back for another day. Hope you guys are having a great day out there today. I certainly hope you're having a better day than the Twins. They are on the brink of elimination now after an awful Thursday. We'll get into the gory details here in just a little bit, spending quite a bit of time on them, both in the introductory section of the show and when Chip Scoggins, Star Tribune columnist, joins me here in just a little bit to talk about not just, what's going on the field right now, but what the long-term implications of this might be, his thoughts on ownership, the Pohlad family, things like that. So Chip and I will get into that in just a minute here. Ryan Kostecka, Star Tribune sports editor, will join me here in a little bit to talk fantasy football, kind of going head-to-head every week on Fridays, a little bit of fun on the Fridays here. I won last week against him. We'll recap that. We'll look ahead with three kind of sleeper picks going forward for you to maybe ponder as you set your lineups for the weekend. First, though, like I said, Twins. Box score says the loss on Thursday went to Scott Blewett, an unfortunate name for a guy who's actually pitched pretty well for them this year. But I say they blew it as a team. They blew it as a team all the last 36 games, 12-24 now in their last 36 games after hitting the high water mark of 70-53. They are now 82-77 after an 8-6, 13-inning loss to the Marlins, the Miami Marlins, the 100-loss Miami Marlins. Twins lost 2 out of 3 in a series where they really needed to either sweep or, at the very worst, take 2 out of 3, win yesterday, give yourself a fighting chance going into the weekend. Now they're not mathematically eliminated, but they're 3 back with 3 to play to both the Tigers and the Royals, needing basically a sweep of their own and one of those teams to be swept. By the way, Detroit plays the White Sox. The White Sox probably aren't going to sweep the Tigers, although the White Sox basically have the same record as the Twins do in September. That's how bad September has been. How do we unpack all this? Well, kind of a microcosm of this whole stretch came in the loss last night, right? You had a complete lack of clutch hitting. Yeah, Brooks Lee had a big hit, but overall 2 for 19 with runners in scoring position. 2 for 19, basically a little over a 100 batting average. They had like 18 chances, it felt like, to win that game late after rallying to tie it. They had bases loaded, nobody out in the 10th inning, could only get 1 run across to tie the game. Had another bases loaded situation later on, couldn't push a run across. Ryan Jeffers popped up a bunt in the 12th, turned into a double play. And then finally the Marlins in the 13th, with Blewett pitching a second inning, pushed 3 runs across. Twins got 1 back in the bottom of the 13th, but that's it. That tells you everything you need to know. This team just did not do enough down the stretch, didn't have the players, didn't have the execution. David Festa, probably the best of their 3 rookies down the stretch, wasn't sharp in this game, gave up 3 runs, didn't make it through 5 innings. That's kind of been the case with these rookies lately. They've been hitting a little bit of a wall. Maybe some, optimism for the future because they get a taste, but man, the future is now what this last month and a half was about. The present is what this last month and a half was about. They just didn't have the players, and it wasn't all injuries. It was underperformance, and it was not enough done to build up this roster. And again, Chip and I will get into some of the blame games, some of the, how we assess who is responsible for the lack of players, the lack of talent on this team, the lack of, being able to put things together. But man, long story short about this right now is that you look at it and you say, man, all the goodwill they had after last year when winning a playoff game, winning a playoff series, they've burned so much of it to the ground in these last 5-6 weeks. Aaron Rupar on Twitter replied to something I posted saying, it's been an excruciating 6 weeks for the diehards. This is as sour as I've felt coming out of a Twins season in a long time. And guess what? That was before they lost last night. That was when we were kind of between games. Now, things were looking... Here's the thing. Things were looking a little bit optimistic on Thursday. Really, like that was their chance. They were still only 2 back with 4 to play. You had the Royals and the Tigers both playing afternoon games, and for a while, both of those games were going decently. The Royals and Nationals were tied at 4 late. The Tigers were down 3-0 in like the middle innings to Tampa Bay. You're thinking, okay, if at least one of those teams can lose, the Twins could then go into their game at night thinking, okay, a win here, cut it to 1 going into the weekend, and then you really give yourself a chance. Instead, of course, Kansas City gets 3 runs in the 9th. They beat the they beat the Nationals 7-4. Detroit rallies for 4 late runs. They beat the Rays 4-3. So the Twins go into Thursday knowing that they're playing just to stay even with both of those teams. They fall into a 4-0 hole pretty quick in that game. They do rally, get it to 4-4, get it to extra innings, but again, this lack of execution, and it's been across the board, like I said, that they just haven't been able to get it done. Right now, the relief pitchers are 18th in baseball in bullpen ERA. Starters are 20th. Like, none of that's like bottom of the league stuff, but it's bottom half of the league. Like, they just don't have the horses on the pitching staff. We've been through it. Like, they didn't do enough at the start of the year to add pitching. They didn't do enough at the trade deadline, certainly to add more pitching. Yeah, the Joe Ryan injury that came right after the trade deadline, that hurt. But, man, you've got to safeguard against stuff like that. You've got to know that at some point you're going to need more pitching. I mean, it's just, yeah, Brock Stewart was hurt. That hurts them. I get it. Justin Topa, by the way, made his debut this week. He pitched a little bit last night. Finally pitching for them. Too little, too late. They're trying to decide whether to activate Chris Paddock, who's been out forever. Like he made, like, I think 17 starts earlier in the year, but again, that was no replacement for what they were losing with Sonny Gray and some of these other pitchers they had. So it was just a plan that was off the rails from the start. It was a team that probably overachieved to get to 70 and 53, right? They were at a high water mark. They were playing really well. They were maybe getting some over performances from some guys, and then everybody started to underperform, or a lot of people started to underperform, and this is the result. One last thing, Royce Lewis. What has happened to Royce Lewis? This is another microcosm of his season in this game. He was not good in this game. What did he finish in Thursday night's game? Royce Lewis goes 0 for 5. He did score 2 runs. I think he was like the bonus run in one of the extra innings, and he scored on a walk, but 0 for 5. Batting average all the way down to 242. And here's the thing. He was red hot to start the year. In his last 63 games, Royce Lewis is hitting .210 with a 623 OPS. 623 OPS. That is below replacement level production from a guy that you were counting on to be a middle-of-the-order guy. Maybe the weight of the season, maybe playing more, maybe trying to carry things too much when Buxton and Correa were injured. Maybe that had an effect on him. But Royce Lewis, they got to figure him out. They got to keep Buxton and Correa healthy next year. Good luck with that. I'm pretty negative on this right now. I don't feel great about where this is going in the future, and I certainly don't love where it is in the present. Like I said, on Thursday, you can say Scott blew it. I say the Pohlads.
Chip Scoggins, Star Tribune columnist, is my guest right now. Chip, for a long time, the math was on the Twins' side. It is no longer on their side. They trail in the wild card race. It's bleak right now going into the final series of the year. There's some bigger picture stuff, though, at play here that I think we need to get into, and that's been on your mind lately.
Yeah, it's, we'll see. I mean, it's still, I think, I don't know, is long shot the right word?
Long shot
Probably
is,
long
is
shot
the right
is
word.
the right word.
Yes.
For them to get in after being 17 games over 500 and have 11 games. Yeah, it's one of the greatest collapses.
It is
in my 25 years.
Well, Royce in Royce's entire lifetime, he wrote about that. He is the authority on Twins history.
I'm just saying all the sports that we have here in town.
Like any team. Yeah, it's up there.
And so your inclination is let's assign blame,
right?
And I don't think it we could do a pie chart if you want, but I tend to think I look more at the ownership setting a negative tone with
the fans are with you, by the way.
Yeah. And that's not to absolve Rocco. That's not to absolve Derek Falvey. That's not to absolve the players because I haven't liked the players' body language here for several weeks. It is their at-bats are, as Rocco said in Kansas City a few weeks ago, it was unprofessional. That's what it's been.
And Correa calling him out a little bit the other day. That was interesting.
Yes, the young players, I think we can all probably guess who he was talking about.
Yep.
But I thought Joe Pohlad really set a negative tone for this season, both in words and actions. You're coming off a season in which you finally win a playoff series.
Right. Finally win a playoff game.
Won a playoff game. Yeah, not series, game.
Both,
game.
But both. But
and you win a series.
Yes.
And this market had come back to the Twins in a way that had been missing previously.
Yes.
I mean, that Target Field was electric for those series. And, the fans reinvested in the team. They were all in. They created an unbelievable atmosphere. People were buzzing about Twins baseball. They felt good about where it was going. And then you come out and say we're cutting payroll by, what was it, $30 million?
Yeah,
20,
and we're good.
Yeah,
we're not going after any of these free agents that you're talking about.
And you let Sonny Gray go, and you don't find a competent replacement.
No.
You come out and tell Jason over at WCCO that you're not going to be in the market for the high-priced guys because that's just not what you're going to do.
Right.
You do nothing at the trade deadline when this team was begging for something to be done in the bullpen. And if you could get another, back of the rotation guy, they did nothing, basically next to nothing. They got rid of the guy. They
got Trevor Richards, and he's gone after 3 weeks.
He lasted less than a month.
As Chris Atterbury said, he's got 3 pitches, a fastball, changeup, and wild pitch.
It's actually a really good line.
It's a great line.
I just think no matter what team, what sport, it always starts with ownership setting the agenda, setting the tone, and they just set an absolute. You took all that goodwill that you had established last year and basically just ripped it apart. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen the fan base this angry at ownership before.
So that's obviously, we want them to be honest. They were honest, but that's a misread by ownership.
Majorly
massive misread from an ownership group that, from time to time have stepped in it. It was to you, right? That it was 2016, the total system failure.
Yeah.
I mean, they know what to say and what not to say.
And it's such a lack of self-awareness that you realize you finally captured this fan base again. Right. You're building something. You have some goodwill with them, and to come out a few months later and say we're cutting payroll, and I don't want to say they were largely to blame for the Comcast and Bally's thing, but they're not absent of blame.
Right.
They had a hand in it.
Sure.
They didn't have a plan B.
No.
And so to say, well, we didn't, that's
right.
This is above. No, it's not. I mean, you had an option of you took the money, and hoping that nothing would happen, and here your games weren't on TV for half the season. So it was just a series of missteps by them, coming off what was a great season in terms of just rebuilding trust. And you felt like, okay, this team might be building something. And just to lose a starter of Sonny Gray's caliber and not have a realistic or credible.
No. Chris Paddock, Anthony DeSclafani.
That was not.
No.
They were counting on players overachieving.
Yes.
And that's not a plan.
Hope is not a plan.
Hope is not a plan. And so it'll be interesting to see if they don't make the playoffs and they're not, eliminated
not mathematically
yet,
eliminated.
as we're talking about this. If they do, I want to see what happens because I know everybody wants to fire everybody.
Yeah.
Right? That's the fan thing. Fire this, fire that person. But I think it would ownership's not going to fire itself.
No.
And it would look really bad for an owner to slash payroll, not do anything at the trade deadline, and then turn around and fire the manager. And I'm not defending Rocco. I'm just saying pure optics.
It's a bad look. It's a bad look.
But there might be and I know social media is not always the best gauge of things to take the temperature, but it is hot like I've never seen it.
It runs between hot and apathy.
Really hot.
Really hot, but also there's the people who will start to tune them out soon.
Mikey, I looked at their attendance yesterday. They're 24th in the Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
For a team that, for large stretches, they were, seventh or eighth, had eighth best record?
Yeah, coming off a playoff appearance where Target Field was electric.
And they can convince themselves all they want that the attendance issues are related to perceptions and stereotypes about Minneapolis. They're being naive if they think that's what. There's a correlation to what this ownership did this year and their attendance. I'm telling you.
You know whose attendance was pretty good last year? The Timberwolves.
Yeah,
they won games. They spent money.
That's the other thing. Put that in direct relation to Tim Conley when they made the moves they did on draft night to get Dillingham.
Yeah.
Later that night, we were talking to Tim Conley, and I said because they had they had to go over the cap, and it was going to cost them whatever it was, the millions
luxury
of dollars
taxes,
to get into luxury tax to do that because now you're adding a
draft pick guaranteed money. Yeah.
And Tim Conley said, "What are you?" Remember the quote? It's like, "We're at the big boy table now.
Yeah.
This is not the time to get scared."
Yeah.
You look 200 yards to the east or west of there, and you have this ownership who is coming off this, really fun season, and you're slashing payroll and saying we're not going to go after those high price guys because that's just not what we're, whatever's not in our budget, however you framed it. So two totally different approaches, and I thought it just sent a really bad message. So I'm going to be curious to see. If they don't make it, there's going to be some serious soul searching. I'm sure there's going to be some uncomfortable conversations. They're not going to run it back with there, but I'm guessing there'll be changes to staff in some degree.
Sure.
Will they be minor or will they be major? That's, we'll see. But again, that has to start from ownership, and ownership has to look at themselves.
Well, and you're saying ownership's not going to fire themselves. Of course they're not. But there's a lot of fans that are like, Pohlad's got to sell. They got to sell the team. I mean, what gets you to that point where you're like...
That is the premise of Common, right? It's like, if you're not going to be serious, then sell it.
Yeah.
If you're not going to invest when the moment says you can invest. If they were a team that's the White Sox.
Yes,
and you
100%.
Said, okay, we
100%.
understand. If you're rebuilding, this was a team that is built to win now.
And it's almost worse that they were really competitive this year, right? Like, if they're at that point where you're like, a little bit more, we wouldn't be talking about trying to squeak into the playoffs in the back door.
No, and it's again, I think the players deserve a lot of blame for this because if you saw Rocco and Carlos Correa's quotes the other day, sounds like guys are just basically tuning out what they've been told in terms of their hitting approach and all that. They're wanting to go rogue and do it their own. Yeah. That's not the answer.
Rocco's been saying that a lot after games. Like, the approach has to be better, and finally Correa said it too.
And there's clearly internal frustration with guys doing whatever they want to do and doing their own approach and not listen. So that's on them, and it's also on the manager not getting through to his players that they basically tuned out whatever they're being told. So
100%.
So everybody deserves blame, but in these situations when it's this bad, I tend to start at the top.
Yeah, I think that's a good place to start. Well, we'll see. Still, like we said, not mathematically, but man, the math was on the side. They were like 95% chance to make the playoffs at one point. Now they are on the wrong side of 50% to be sure, and it's plenty of blame to go around. Lavelle and I batted this around last week. I put more on the players. He put more on Falvey. Everybody commented was like, it's the ownership. I think I'm starting to come around to it starts at the top, and what do you do about that?
Well, they have to really look and say, are we totally committed to this? Is this what we want to do?
They've had it for 40 years, right?
Yeah, is this what we want to do?
84? Is that when they bought the team? 84?
I think if they look at their attendance and look at the backlash that they're seeing, they'll understand like the approach they took this year is not going to work. And if they don't want to spend the money, if they don't want to make the investment and make the commitment, then don't be surprised with the reaction that you're seeing right now from your fan base.
For the sake of the Twins, I hope they pull it out. For the sake of reading and the fireworks, I kind of hope they don't because I want to read what you have to say. But Chip, appreciate you coming on right now, and I'm sure we'll talk again soon.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me.
Great stuff from Chip. I'm glad he was able to join me, kind of capture the spirit of this thing. Yeah, Twins not mathematically eliminated yet, but for all intents and purposes, unless something miraculous happens this weekend, it is over. And when it's officially over, I think Chip's going to have even more to say. So stay tuned on that. Follow that on Star Tribune and StarTribune.com.
Watch your dreams and savings grow with Royal Credit Union's 4.25% annual percentage yield 12-month certificate. Open now at any Royal office or online at rcu.org/certificate-saver. Early withdrawal penalties could reduce earnings and principal. APY accurate as of 2/1/25. Insured by NCUA.
Let's talk fantasy football again with Star Tribune sports editor Ryan Kostecka. Ryan, how are you?
It's a new week, so I'm doing better now.
Speaking of which, we do have to recap last week's scoring just for the sake of the record books. I did win last week. To remind listeners of the format, we're each picking a quarterback, a running back, and a wide receiver who is outside of the top 10 in the NFL.com positional projections. So we're trying to give you some sleepers here. Try not to make it so obvious, like, I take Patrick Mahomes every week. Like, we do a little draft, and we pick guys. I took Justin Fields, Derrick Henry, Chris Olave last week. You took Geno Smith, David Montgomery, and Mike Evans. It was a fair fight, except for Mike Evans was really bad, and Derrick Henry was really good.
Yeah, it was tough. Like we talked about previous, Geno Smith looked great, and I thought he had a great game, but then you realize he didn't actually score very many points. So kind of tough. And Mike Evans, so that hurt my own fantasy team there. I doubled up and didn't work out.
I did go through and I added up the point totals. Fields had 18.4, so he was 10th in the quarterback finishes, which is pretty good. I think I might have done this going into Monday night, so maybe I'm missing a little bit. But Derrick Henry had 30.4 against the Mike Zimmer Cowboys run defense that is not vaunted right now. We'll see what the Giants can do against them this week. He was only the third highest running back, though.
That's crazy.
Who had big games?
I think Devin Achane.
Yes.
Maybe more on him to come later. Who knows?
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Don't give away the game right now. Don't give away the whole game.
I'm good. I have a plan. I have a much better plan.
Scoring leaders. I'm looking at who is the scoring leaders for week 3.
Achane had a big game because I played him in fantasy, and or was that 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, it was 2 weeks ago. Saquon Barkley had a huge game.
That's right.
Because he had 147 and 2 touchdowns, and he had 2-point conversion too. And then Kyron Williams from the Rams had 3 touchdowns and a bunch of combined yards.
He scored all against the Niners.
Yes.
He led that comeback. That's right.
Yes. So that was that. And I had...
good call on you, by the way. Getting a top 10 running back to finish number 3.
Below top 10. Yeah,
below top 10.
Olave finished 9th. So I had all 3 of my guys were outside the top 10, finished in the top 10. This is not going to happen every week. I'm not a good fantasy football player. You will win a lot of these weeks.
I hope so.
But I got kind of fortunate. Geno Smith had a good game, but he was 19th.
Okay.
Like, that's about where he was in the projection. So it's not like it was that bad. David Montgomery was 8th. Like, you were fine with that. Mike Evans was 71st. In the wide receiver.
That's not going to win me a lot, is it?
That was the problem. So the final score was 69.4 to 37.3.
It's tough because with that, I was toggling between Mike Evans or Chris Godwin.
Who had a better game.
Who had a better game. Mike Evans is my own fantasy guy. So it's like,
you had to do it.
Come on.
Okay. So on to this week. I'm sure you're ready to turn the page.
I am. Let's do this.
Okay, I'm gonna tweak the format just a little bit. We're not gonna do a snake anymore because I feel like that didn't work because then it was like the drama was taken out of us. You go 1, I'll go 2. You go 3, I'll go 4. You go 5, I'll go 6. So we'll just straight up.
You go win though? You go win because you won?
No, you go ahead. You go ahead.
Nice. It's like losers first.
Yeah, it's like this isn't make it take it. This isn't make it take it. You take the ball out.
So this is tough. This is tough. I'm not sure where I want to go with number 1.
You can pick anybody outside the top 10.
Exactly. I'm torn on this. I am going to go, like I mentioned earlier, Devin Achane versus Tennessee. It was between him and Zach Moss because Moss is going against Carolina and they just lost their middle guy.
Right.
So, but I am going to go with Achane because I do think they're going to use him in multiple ways. I think McDaniels having an extra week with Tua being out now. I mean, I know Skylar's hurt, but I do think this is like a chance for McDaniels to really shine. He's a brilliant offensive mind. He's extra weak. Tennessee's defense, is okay. They're not bad, but the problem is though their offense is so bad.
Right. So they never had the ball.
Exactly. So the second half, I think you could see Achane that speed. It might wear down Tennessee. So I'm going to go with Devin Achane.
Okay, I think that's a solid pick. We'll give you that. I'm going to go running back at the jump too. A guy who I declared on a previous podcast this week to be the best all-around running back I've ever watched the Vikings have.
Oh,
Aaron Jones.
So that was good. That I like
revenge game against the Packers. He was great last week. He's going to catch you some passes. He's going to get those kind of cheap fantasy points because he's going to catch 4 or 5 passes out of the backfield. He's only gotten in the end zone once this year, so that's a little bit of a concern. He got in the end zone. Actually, no, maybe he's gotten in twice. I think he's got a rushing touchdown and a receiving touchdown, but he's only he's not the touchdown machine that a lot of these other backs are, so there's a little bit of a limb there, but going against his former team, he's going to be motivated. They're going to need to spread the ball around with Darnold maybe not 100% right now. Yeah. I think he gets 15 to 20 carries, catches another 5 to 7 passes.
I agree. I like that. The Lambeau leap, he said he's going to do it.
See if he gets a chance to.
Exactly. I'm excited to watch him go back to to
That's
Green Bay.
Fun.
He talked about like the fan base and how he expects a warm welcome, which I think it will be a warm welcome.
Yeah.
No bad blood at all.
No. Well, he said earlier this week, like, someone asked him like, what were your emotions in your final game at Lambeau last year? And he was like, I thought I was going to be back.
Exactly.
Like,
I had no idea.
I didn't know that was going to be my last game, so it's just kind of like a regular game. Like, you're sad the year's over. You're happy you're going to the playoffs, but he didn't, like, there was not some special, like some deep reflection. He thought he was coming back, so that to me is there's a revenge factor there that I can't ignore.
I do like your Jones pick because the fact that with Justin Jefferson and Jalen Naylor playing well, Jordan Addison's back at practice. I mean, you cannot load the box against the Vikings.
No.
So that's going to be. I like that. That's good.
Okay, what do you got next?
I'm pretty sure I have my quarterbacks are pretty even, so I feel comfortable with them.
Okay.
The wide receivers where I'm really, really struggling.
Okay.
I am gonna. Oh man, I'm gonna go with Brandon Ayuk.
Okay.
With the Niners against New England, and I have reasoning.
Yeah. Okay.
So first off, Terry McLaurin versus Arizona was one, and then I almost took Tyreek for the same reason I'm taking Devin.
Yep.
But I'm going with Ayuk. The main reasoning is I think the offense struggles for New England, so that defense is on quite a bit.
Oh, their offense is terrible right
Christian Gonzalez, I think, is an Oregon guy.
Yep.
One of the best young cornerbacks in the league for New England. I think they're going to mark him on Juwan Jennings.
Okay.
After Jennings had that massive game. I think this is the game Ayuk kind of pops back. George Kittle is expected to be back. So that helps out a little bit. I think this is the game where Ayuk maybe gets that 9-10 catches, 80 yards, and a tutty.
Yeah.
So I just it's a gut play
I can see that.
That's my goal. San Francisco needs a win.
Yeah.
Needs a win really, really bad.
Are they 1-2 right now?
They're 1-2. New England, the one thing they can do, that run defense is pretty solid. They do stand up. So it'd be tough to run on them. But I think I'm going to go with Brandon Ayuk. It could really bite me, but I do like this pick. It's a gut feel, I guess you could say.
Well, and Ayuk shouldn't have a Mike Evans shutout game because he catches a lot of passes.
He does.
Even in his bad games, he's going to get you 10 to 12 points.
Exactly. That's kind of my thing. I'm going more for volume than like overall production on this one.
Okay. I like it. I'm going to go with my receiver too. I'm going to take DJ Moore from the Bears. I'm feeling Caleb Williams right now.
I am
starting to come on a little bit. Who's the opponent? The opponent's not good either.
The Rams.
Yeah, Rams are okay. So I'm just I don't know, a little bit of a gut here, just more of a fun play. I feel like Moore is just they had so much talent coming into the year. I was like, the Bears are going to be good. I was just like, the Bears are going to be good. They haven't been that good so far, but they could be part of the best division in football right now.
It is the best division. Let's call it what it is. I mean, they're so good.
I mean, this could be 3 teams in double-digit wins now that the Vikings are good, and then the Bears, I think, will be 7 or 8 by the end of the year.
Exactly.
They could be competing too. So I'm take DJ Moore, hoping for my sake, for the fantasy sake, that Caleb Evans has kind of figured something out, and Moore is pretty good on off-script play, stuff like that. So we're gonna go with DJ Moore.
So I like that pick. You just made my quarterback pick for me, though, so I appreciate that because Caleb Williams was one of them.
Okay.
I am not going to pick him for the sole purpose if he plays well. Moore probably plays well.
Yep.
But I do agree with you. I do like the pick a lot. I think Rams struggle. I'm going to go with Derek Carr versus Atlanta.
Ooh, that's nice. Okay. I like it. That's good.
I think I like what Derek Carr, I like what New Orleans is doing. I think Atlanta, it could be a high-scoring game. Atlanta's defense is not very good.
Yep.
I'm not sure what to expect from them, but I think Olave is going to get involved. I just, Alvin Kamara is going to touch the ball quite often. So I think, that's kind of a cheap way to pick up points if he can score in the screen game. So I'm going to go with Derek Carr for Atlanta. I think it's a solid pick. Once again, I'm going for more, just trying to get points more than like the big time home run hitters.
I understand. I think it's a good pick. I think it's a solid pick. I think you might be happy with what you get. Yeah. My last pick, quarterback. I'm putting a lot of trust in rookie quarterbacks right now. Jaden Daniels.
That was
coming off a big game. I know it's a little dangerous. He might be like looking at his own, everything people have been saying about him. But the thing is, he's a dual threat guy, so might get you a rushing touchdown even in a game where he's not having his best passing day. He was 21 of 23 in that game, and he fewer than over 90% completion rate. He was great. They get to play Arizona, not a great defense. Nope. So I'm gonna take Jaden Daniels. He's 13th in the projections this week, but I think he'll be better than that this week.
I do that's a good pick, and that's kind of what my Terry McLaurin almost pick. I like that pick again, and I thought about it too, but I don't know how much trust I had in rookie quarterbacks going back to back.
I'm nervous. I'm nervous about it because now I've basically put my trust in 2 rookie quarterbacks because you got to get Caleb Williams to throw the ball to DJ Moore.
I do like it though. Good picks. Good picks.
Who's your NFC North pick before we go?
So I almost went with Moore, but you chose him, so I'm not going to. This is kind of a different pick. I'm going to go with the Vikings D.
Okay.
I'm going to take the actual unit itself. Okay. I think Malik Willis. I'm not sure what to expect from him. I know he played pretty well last.
You're not saying you think Jordan Love's not going to play?
Even if Jordan Love plays, he's not going to be able to move.
Okay.
And good luck trying to diagnose Brian Flores' defense and if you can't move and all those blitzes are coming at you from different areas. I'm going to go with the Vikings D. I think they actually get the win. I think they go to 4-0. And I think they limit the Packers D quite a bit. I think it's going to be a fun game. I'm going with the Vikings D as a whole unit.
I like it. I'll say if you're looking for a quarterback, I think it's a good Jared Goff game against Seattle. I think Jared Goff could have a big game. He's 11th in the projection, so it's like right under the cutoff for a top 10 kind of thing. But I'm going to say Jared Goff for Detroit.
Where's that game at?
At Detroit, Seattle at Detroit.
Good call. Good call. Detroit Goff at home is great.
Yeah, not in Seattle.
Yeah, right.
That would not be good because you might have a lot of false starts, a lot of trouble with the snap count, like the Texans had.
Oh my gosh, unreal, 4 in a row.
Yeah,
never seen that.
Well, and it wasn't just that; it was all the pre-snap stuff too, not just the false starts, but they couldn't get Tunsil to line up right. Like 3 of those. So
I think that's part of why it's going with the Vikings D. Like they make you do uncharacteristic things because you don't know where it's coming from.
They're really good. Well, we'll see. We'll see how this shakes out next week. I'm not a winning streak. It's just one, but you're out for revenge, just like Aaron Jones.
I'll be honest. I'm paying more attention to this than on my own fantasy team. I'm done with fantasy with them.
I am too.
That's bad.
I am too. All right. Thanks, Ryan.
Thanks.
Hope you enjoyed that. It's just a little bit of fun, right? Like, we take things so seriously here. The Twins got to do this. What's going on with this team? Fantasy football should just be fun. It should be kind of relaxing, even though it's not always relaxing. You're kind of, worried about your team, stuff like that. But it's just a way to kind of stay closer to the fun part of sports, which is how are guys doing, what, trash talk a little bit, stuff like that. So look forward to that segment for the rest of the year. Let us finish quickly with the cooler. Some real football. I mean, fantasy football is real football. It's based on reality. But Justin Jefferson had some things to say about the Packers, about the rivalry, about what he wants to accomplish on the field on Friday, making it clear that Sunday's game is not just an Aaron Jones revenge game. Let's hear from Justin right now.
I really don't care about the matchup, honestly. I feel like he cares more of it than I do. But I mean, it is what it is. That's every team. No knick-knack at Jair. That's every team, and how they scheme up against me, and how they try to play me. So it doesn't matter if I'm going up against Jair or if I'm going up against the worst corner in the league. It doesn't matter. We have a game plan, and we have a scheme and a plan to go out there and execute no matter who's guarding us. I mean, he reminds me of my big brother. I mean, that always just try to knick-knack at every little thing and just try to play the head game, just try to hit you a little extra or try to push you a little extra than normal people do. But I understand that it's a tactic. It's a tactic to get inside my head and to mess up my game plan of what I'm doing. But it doesn't really work. I understand that he has, some help over the top sometimes, and he like to do the jump jam and like to put hands on to disrupt the route. But we have a plan for it. I can't wait to go up against it, honestly.
Justin, what did you think when he did? I think he did the gritty over you the last time you were there.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is.
You were an MVP candidate.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that was week 17 at that point of the season. I mean, it is what it is. just like I said, he likes to do that stuff to get inside someone's head. I'm not really tripping on that. I'm gonna just get my get back by grittying in his end zone. So I'm not tripping on it at all. I'm excited for the matchup.
I love it when Vikings Packers is spicy. I love it when there's something to it, when both sides want it, when both teams are good. We know the Packers are good. They were a team on the rise last year, made the playoffs unexpectedly. I think they're good again this season. We didn't think much about the Vikings going into the year, but man, those opinions have certainly changed. So this is a huge game Sunday at Lambeau. If the Vikings are able to win, if they're able to showcase this defense, this balance, go 4-0, go 2 games up on the Packers, just 4 games into the season with that win at Lambeau in hand, that would certainly be impressive. So obviously huge stakes in this game, and we will see. We will watch it all unfold with everybody else. Lynx, Connecticut, Game 1 Sunday as well. It's going to be a great day of sports watching on Sunday. Final game of the Twins season. You will be released from that duty on Sunday, I would imagine, so look forward to that. Royce and I will talk about all of it on Monday. Until then, I am Michael Rand. Have a great weekend. We'll talk to you in a few days.